Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my talk about local first AI. My name is Erik Poolman. I'm a software developer who works at UI. And in my free time, some of the things that I like to do is play around with AI tools. And I'm going to show you some things about that today. Before we start, I would like to get a quick feel of the room. How many people here have already done something with local AI? So not talking about ChatGPT or DeepSeek or something like that, actually local AI. Okay, that's actually quite a big part of the group, about half, I think, a little bit less than half. Interesting. Before I start, one thing good to note is that I do have a pretty beefy machine at home with 24 gigabytes of VRAM, but I'm going to show you in the end that's not necessary for just doing fun stuff with AI. First, to start out with a little bit of image generation. That's also where I started out. I started out with this tool called Focus. I just started playing around with it in my own free time. At the bottom, you can see where you can put a prompt, and then the image appears. And there are some options here, but not very many. It's just for generating something quickly. And this was, as you can see, already a bit older and simpler, basically, because there are not that many options. But some of the things that I generated with this, of course, is just trying out to generate some landscapes and also generate a pirate, for example. But also try to do something a little bit more complicated. So this, for example, try to just test the limits of the model. Create a beautiful image of a duck and a goat, both sticking out their tongues in a field of flowers with flying bathtubs. Well, as you can see, at least at the time, the model had a lot of trouble with this. There is not just a duck and a goat. There is a kind of morph between a goat on the left and a duck. It has a beak, but it's actually a goat. There's no flying bathtubs, but they are both in a bathtub, and there's flying ducks instead of flying bathtubs. So yeah, this just to show you, this was the technology at the time, basically. From there, I also got asked by some friends, hello, can you give me this image, basically, of this dog, and can you add, for example, a Christmas hat to it? So I tried it out and found this technique called in-painting, and you just paint out the little area where you want the AI model to insert something, and it can generate Christmas hats or anything you want, basically. After that, he also asked me, can you also add fireworks in the background? So I did, and here's another funny thing you can see. Instead of just adding fireworks, it also hallucinated, basically, an entire mountain in the background. Another thing that I used local AI for is also, this is at the time, at the moment you can do much better with restoring images, but this was at the time what I did. So on the left there's the original black and white image, and I de-oldified it, as they called it. So yeah, basically adding color to it. I also trained a model on my own face. And these were the kinds of results I was getting from it. I told it to generate an Erik Poolman at the age of 80 years old. These are some of the things that it came up with, and some some really funny examples in here. One really important thing to note, which is also something that I learned from, that's the incoming one now. Once in like 10 or 15 image generations that I did, I got, instead of just my face or whatever I put in as my prompt, I also got this plate of food. And I found out after a while that from one of the input images, as the images I used as training, I forgot to crop out just my face. And so the model must have thought that sometimes an Erik Poolman can be plates of food. Interesting learnings. Whoops. From there, did I just jump one? Sorry, 1 second. No, okay. Yeah, from there, the idea came up. So I started talking about me doing this in my own time, in the office, basically. And from there, the idea came up to help customers visualize an inspiring, fresh, and modern look for their kitchen. So this is going to a client project. We started actually then working on this. At that moment, I switched to a different tool, and as you can see, still here, the state of the technology was still not as good as it is right now. Because, for example, in the image, I'm trying to generate an image that spells out Yui. Well, it does not look anything like Yui. Also, with this tool, so at the top left here, you can see that's the original. Sorry, the top one. Oh yeah, top left. And then these were the kinds of things that we were able to generate with that tool. As you can see, not good enough. Also, the client did not think this was good enough, of course. So we looked further and found a tool called Comfy UI. And Comfy UI allows you to make intricate workflows of how image generation should be done. So, for example, there's separate nodes for loading an image, for case sampling, for what to do with the output. Do you want to preview it? Do you want to save it somewhere? It allows you to make just entire workflows for whatever you want to do. Using this tool, we were able to do things like this. So just this is the original image first, and then pay close attention to the top left where you see the outside world. If you give this entire image to the model and tell it to make the kitchen cabinet doors dark, for example, or a specific color, what it will do is it will try to make everything in the image into kitchen cabinet doors. So yeah, that's a problem. So we had to find out how to resolve that problem. We looked into something called masking, or sorry, YOLO V8. It's a tool that allows you to detect and mask parts of an image based on your training set, basically. YOLO doesn't stand for you only live once in this case, but for you only look once. And yeah, just as at the top left, you can see it can detect cars and trucks on an image, but you can also, of course, train a model to detect the kitchen cabinet doors, as you can see in the bottom right. Yeah, so we actually, in the office, we got to work on this, and I actually got help from a bunch of my colleagues who helped me annotate these images. A lot of work. And then we started training a model on those images, basically. And yeah, using that model, we were eventually able to create things like this. So on the left, you see the original, and on the right, you can see some of the generated images. And yeah, so the final product was quite good, actually, if you ask me. Then, of course, I also wanted to just play around with this. So I wanted to see what else can it do. So, for example, in this image, I replaced all of the the cabinet doors with bookshelves. And another example with coins, just to see what I could do, and puzzle pieces, and even plushies. So, yeah, if you want to get a kitchen cabinet door with plushies, yeah. I then also trained another model at some later point on my face again and started trying out to generate images like this, for example. Here, there's another funny example here. You can see already the progress of the models in the meantime, because actually here it generates the logo on my chest basically perfectly with accurate letters. But if you look at my left hand, you can see I'm missing a pinky finger. So yeah, still progress, but not perfect. Another example here, but yeah, just to give you an idea. And just more fun stuff on a dragon, flying over New York with wearing a tuxedo, whatever you can imagine, you can make it. So yeah, as I mentioned, progress was happening. Here, actually, a duck and a goat, both sticking out their tongues, in a field of flowers with flying bathtubs. Progress. And not only was that progress happening in this kind of way, but also with what I was mentioning before, where we had to actually train an entire model to do the masking. A few months later, basically after we had finished the project, ChatGPT first came out with the new image model, and it was able to already, as you can see, mask out quite perfectly these kitchen cabinets. doors. Whereas before, we had to actually train a model for this specifically to do it. And now suddenly ChatGPT just could do it. Yeah, crap. um, then shortly after that, open source models started to follow. So this, for example, is Flux Context. As you can see also, it's perfectly able to capture what exactly are the kitchen cabinet doors, and the rest it leaves untouched. And that's also what our client wanted. This is another example with Qwen image edit. The bottom left is the original one, and the other ones are generated and just given a prompt, basically. And this one in particular, by the way, this one was really hard to get right with our old model, especially because for it, as you can see, it's like a crooked angle of the image, and the model would often, for example, forget the top part of the kitchen here because it's sort of cut off, and it would not understand that that's still part of the kitchen. So yeah, that basically was a lot of progress. So what did we learn from that? Yes, AI is moving fast. One problem that we spent months on basically to try to fix, a few months later was fixed inside of the models themselves. So that's something really important that we learned. Additional challenges with hosting, like if you want to host these solutions, you actually need to think a lot about the infrastructure and what's behind it and how to host the thing, whatever you're building. Another thing to mention is that also at the moment GPUs cannot be split up as easily as, for example, CPUs can with Docker, for example. You can't really do that with GPUs as easily. So yeah. That makes it a little bit more difficult. And another thing to really consider is ownership versus vendor lock-in, because if you have a cloud provider that you're using, of course, you could have a situation which works perfectly for the case that you are working on, and then suddenly the provider tells you, hey, we're going to switch the model, and now you have to use this model instead, and suddenly that model doesn't do your specific use case as well anymore. So yeah, there's lots of things to consider there. If you are, of course, just building something locally, then you have control over what that code is and what it does, and there's not just a vendor that can just change their minds, basically. Yeah. Next, I'm going to talk just a little bit about video generation, what's possible locally. So I'm just going to show you some fun things. So this is one thing that I generated quite some time already ago with 1.2.1. Since then, now 1.2.2 is out. I'm trying to play it, 1 second. Yeah, I told it to make the man tear off his shirt and then fly through the city. It's not really flying, as you can see, but yeah, I guess it's getting there, right? But since then, as well, something else came out, which is 1.2.2. And that allows you, for example, this is specifically 1.2.2 animate. And what it allows you to do, for example, here is the bottom left image. It is the input video. And whatever character you put in there, you just have to give it an image of a character, and it will animate that character with exactly the same animations. As you can see, you can do it with robots, you can do it with aliens, you can do it with whatever you want, basically. Animated characters. Yeah, anything. And just another one cool example, I really thought maybe I need to lower the volume a little bit, is with GTA. I'm sure we're all familiar with GTA. At the top, you can see some of the original GTA footage, and at the bottom is where they used 2.2 animate to make this more lively. So, yeah. Yeah, and just good to mention, this is all stuff that you can do locally, basically, this stuff. So yeah, really cool. Besides that, also, if you want to pretend to be someone else in your next meeting, then this is a really fun tool. It's called Deep Live Cam. And in this specific case, someone took a video or webcam video, basically, of themselves, put an image of Elon Musk on there, And yeah, as you can see, it looks quite like Elon Musk. And this also works on your local machine. So yeah, have fun. Yeah, so very quick recap. Lots of things are possible already at the moment. 1.2.2 Animate is one of the latest things. There are many more coming out. Hunyuan, Humo, Longcat, lots of models becoming more and more available. Also stuff that you can run locally, although video is still requires quite often quite a beefy machine, or you have to wait a very long time for your generation to be finished, basically. And also, one of the more recent advancements in this video generation is video plus audio, and that's also now available locally. For example, here with this tool, OVI. Um, I don't have any examples right now, but yeah, that also does, for example, if you're familiar with VO3 or with Sora 2, that you can also do locally now. One quick thing about audio as well. This is something I think is really cool. So one thing you can do is voice cloning. On the left here, we have just an input audio of 4 seconds.
Once, when I was 6 years old, I saw a magnificent picture.
And just with that little voice clip, you can just make them say anything
The
you
quick
want.
brown fox jumps over the lazy dog near the idyllic riverbank, causing ripples in the water's mirrored surface. In the silence of the ancient library, amidst the...
You get the point, right? You can make this say anything you want with any voice that you want. And something new that recently came out is you can add emotion. Although it's good to mention, this only works with English, and the example I showed you with voice cloning, it also works with Dutch even. So yeah, that's that about image. Then finally, I'm going to talk about text and tools. First, I think we're all familiar already with tools like this. So just to clarify, this is not an open source tool. These ones are not open source, but I'm going to show you an open source alternative. These are becoming popular recently. It's a agentic coding tool. You have basically a terminal interface. You open a folder with your terminal. You type in, for example, Codex or Claude, and you are working inside of that folder. You can use that, for example, to say at this file, and then it will send that file as context to the model, and you can do AI with it. And also it can then create files on your local machine and build something together with you. Instead of having to use it through the web interface, then this is an alternative. And there's also a local source, an open source version of that you can run now with, for example, Olama, and then yeah, you can run it all locally. Yeah, that's that. Finally, another tool I would really like to share as well is Pinocchio. In case you would like to try to play around with one of these tools, or a lot of these, there's a ginormous list of tools that you can try out with. But this saves you the trouble of actually having to figure out how to install it. You just install this thing, you click whatever tool you want to install, and it will pop open. You click on install, and it will pop open a browser window where you can play around with the tool. Yeah, really cool. And another one, this is also something I work a lot with. It's called LM Studio. There are some alternatives, but I like this one specifically for multiple reasons. I'll just go over the basics for now. At the top, you can see which model is loaded. And you can load in different models by searching for them in this interface. At the right is a system prompt, and that's very helpful, especially if you're using like a model with a smaller amount of parameters locally. Then giving it a good system prompt with enough context is precisely what you need, basically, because the model itself doesn't have that much data to go off of, so you have to provide it with the right context, and then it's actually useful. One more thing about that is this specifically. So as you can see here, I loaded in a 8B model, but you could also do this with a 2B model. As you can see, just like this, the model itself of course, it doesn't know about elections. It doesn't know about those things. So it just makes up an answer here. But what you can do with LM Studio is you can go to a website with a plugin for it, and then you have it's listed here, but you can also just Google for it and search for LM Studio DuckDuckGo. And then you can tell it to use web search, and suddenly, as you can see, the answer is actually accurate. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's actually one of the main points I wanted to give away. This allows you to do then actually useful stuff, basically, because as I said, the model itself doesn't have the necessary data, but with these tools, it does get access to the right data, and it becomes actually useful. And as I mentioned, you can do this also with 2B models, which can even run on your phone, theoretically. Quite slowly probably, but yeah, fun stuff. I think that's it for now. Questions? Yeah.
Yes, thank you for the great presentation. Lots of tools to look into. The questions will be organized like you ask a question, Erik repeats it and then answers it, so that we get it on the recording.
Just let me think for a second.
What is the question?
Yeah. So you're asking if the question. So the question is, how do you handle large file sizes? Is that or large model context? There are some tools that are available. For example, LM Studio, what I showed before, also has this built-in RAG tool. You can make a vectorized database of it. There are many options, basically, that you can do to handle that. But those are the main ones. So you can make a vectorized database, for example. You just add a bunch of context, and in the system prompt, basically, can also have a bunch of context. I'm wondering, is your question then, if you have limited memory, can you still do it? Is that basically then it, or?
Well, what I've noticed is that the amount of context, specifically the textual context, obviously, has a big impact on the memory use and speed of the local processing.
Yeah.
So I would want to know if you have any advice on how to improve on that.
I think at the moment that's basically just a limit of the system. The more RAM you have, basically, the more you can fit in it. The more VRAM you have, the better. Yeah, you can take care of some of the things, right? By, for example, as I said, making like a vectorized database and then have it search through that with RAG. That reduces the amount of things it has to have in memory. But yeah, that's basically the only way. There are no magic bullets, basically, for this, sadly. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Cool. Yeah.
Another question here? Yeah.
Thanks a lot for the insights. And I would like to ask, are there any tricky problems that easy to miss for someone if someone starts developing local image generation?
One thing. Sorry. The question is: are there any tricky things to miss while you're developing locally? Well, I have one example. It might be a bit specific to myself. I'm not sure exactly if it's also useful for you, but it's maybe good to keep in mind that your screen. So if you have a video card that you're using just for your own usage, right? If you're also gaming on it, for example, then you just have one machine which you're working on, and one of the things to consider is if you also have a 4K screen, it actually takes those resources. And so one of the things I also realized, I was like, this process, people online are saying that it's going to take, let's say, 3 minutes per iteration, and I was getting 12 minutes per iteration. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I figured out that with all of my screens, I have a bunch of big screens. If I turned those off, suddenly it would go a lot faster. That's just one of the things, basically. And well, maybe one other thing to mention is VRAM is really good yeah, that's what you need to pay attention to, basically. That's the main thing. Anything else will still work, it will just be slower, basically. If you have a bunch of RAM, for example, it can also cover for some of the missing VRAM, but it will just be slower.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I have second question. Really curious about the local image generating model you were building, and which solution did you pick up, and which you're using now? Is it cloud-based or local?
That project still needs to be completely finalized, so we're gonna revisit basically that decision. But yeah, at the moment it looks like tools, for example, like Nano Banana. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's Google's latest one. That one does things very well. I've also done some video restoration with it, or some image restoration with it, for example, recently. Sorry, I missed actually repeating the question, I think. uh, help me once, please help me.
Which solution did you pick up?
Right. So which solution did we use for the eventual product? Well, as I mentioned, right, it's not finished yet exactly, so we are still working on it. We're gonna figure out what is the best one to use. As I mentioned, if you do want to do something locally, you have to keep in mind the infrastructure, and you have to actually build the infrastructure, those kinds of things. If you use cloud AI, that's of course much simpler. So yeah, that's a bit of the trade-off, and we haven't made a decision yet. So yeah.
Can I ask a small follow-up question?
Yeah.
But what's your feeling about all effort you spent on training models, masking manually, all this stuff? If you have possibility to choose one more time, would you pick cloud models initially, or still trying local hosted image generation based off something?
I would still. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the question is if I would choose again. If I were to choose again for this project, would I choose for local or hosted AI? I would personally, at least, want to do local AI, but it also depends on the requirements, right? If the client wants to is expecting that this will run 100 times per day, then maybe local is not so good anymore because you have to build the infrastructure for it again. That's a bit of the consideration. Yeah, I see another. Oh, multiple hands even.
Yeah, let's do applauses first.
Okay. So the question is if I'm developing with local coding models specifically, I basically try out a whole bunch of models, and for whatever I'm trying to solve, I look again what should I use for this case. I've used, I think, Quen Coder. Well, I've just used a bunch of different ones, and yeah, the thing is, you really just need to try it out. There's no way. Some models have some preference basically for certain technologies. Most of them are really good at React, for example, and things like that. But yes, some models handle, let's say, Magento better, or some handle Symfony better. You really need to try it out. Sadly, there's no silver bullet in this case either. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
I was wondering when it comes to training or fine-tuning a model, if you don't have a big enough machine or a big machine,
Mm-hmm.
are there any recommendations when it comes to tools that you can use in order to get a more or less accurate model without needing an actual big machine to do the fine-tuning and
Yeah. So the question is, what tools are available to help you make this stuff if you don't have a beefy machine, right? That's the question. Yeah, if you don't have a beefy machine, there are many options. For example, there's ways to run Comfy UI just in the cloud directly. There are other tools which allow you to sort of rent a GPU. I think it's, for example, one of them is RunPod, which I've tried in the past. There are many more of those types of systems, and they allow you to sort of run it like it's local, but of course you're still sending your data somewhere. So yeah, it's a bit of those. You have to be willing to put your trust in that provider, basically, and then yeah, cool. All right.
Cool. That wraps it up.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Yes, just one more thing before we close is we're planning to have a kind of a AI cafe. So this is not from UE or something like that. This is actually just trying to get people who are enthusiastic about AI together. So yeah, if you'd like to join, please scan the code and yeah, join us. That's it.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. Big round of applause, rightfully so. Thank you very much. We have a small gift.